Imagine for a moment that you could breathe without moving your chest, without inhaling air, without using your lungs. Would that even be possible? Or have we been so conditioned to think that breathing is merely a biological function that we've forgotten its deepest, most invisible, and most sacred dimension? From the first moment we come into this world, life seems to begin with a dramatic act. The cry of the newborn, the sudden expansion of the lungs, the first inhalation of air. We believe that this is where life begins. Breathing, but it's not as if there was already a rhythm within us before that first inhalation. When we were still floating in the ocean of amniotic fluid, sustained by the liquid stillness of the womb. It wasn't a breath of oxygen, but of energy. It wasn't a physiological act, but a deep vibrational movement that connected us to the essential flow of existence. This form of pure, subtle primal breathing is known as embryonic breathing. And although its name sounds poetic, its practice is profound. This video takes you to the heart of a wisdom that has remained silent, guarded by mystical traditions that understood that true energy does not enter through the nose, but through the invisible centers of the energetic body, particularly through the lower dantian, about 3 finger widths below the navel, the energetic womb, where, according to the ancient Taoists, not only biological life but also the spiritual alchemy of the being originates. Embryonic respiration does not aim at oxygenation, but at unite body, mind, and spirit in a silent dance where the air doesn't move, but energy does. It's a way of breathing that is felt not in the chest, but deep in the belly. It's not heard because it doesn't produce sound, but it silently transforms the practitioner's vibrational structure. In a world where fear has taken control of the body, where breathing has become shallow, agitated, and fragmented, this ancient practice represents a return to the source, a reminder that we are not made, not to desperately chase air, but to call upon the spirit of air from within and hold it with pure awareness. In this video, I'll show you exactly what embryonic breathing is and how it differs from other methods, how it was used in ancient times by wise monks and inner alchemists, and how you can begin to reconnect with that deep memory that's still alive in your energetic body, even though your mind has forgotten it. Prepare yourself, because this knowledge doesn't belong to this world. Modernity is a door that opens only to those willing to remember how they breathed before they were anyone, when they were still merely a presence. Today you will learn to breathe as you did before you had a name, a history, or a form, and in that memory you may find something deeper than air, your purest energy in the history of humanity. The most sacred forms of knowledge were transmitted not through words, but through presence. The teacher did not teach, he radiated, and the student learned not with the mind, but with the body. Embryonic breathing is one of those silent insights not written down in books, but codified in the posture of the sage in the stillness of his womb, where his energy rested undisturbed by the world. Most people believe that the first breath occurs at birth, but for the ancient Taoist schools, this moment rather marks the beginning of separation, the disconnection from the universal flow to enter a fragmented existence. The true breath, the ancients said, is prior to the air. In the classic texts of Taoist alchemy, such as the Canton Key or the Canon of Harmony between the three, breathing is described that depends not on oxygen but on chyle. It permeates the entire K. It does not enter or exit in the usual sense. It moves in a spiral, condenses in the lower abdomen, and circulates internally, nourishing the organs, balancing the mind, and awakening consciousness. The sages of the inner lineage, known as Niden or inner alchemists, claimed that before breathing through the nose, man must first breathe through the spiritual navel, the energetic center that still vibrates at the point where the umbilical cord was once attached. From there, in the womb, the embryo effortlessly received nutrients, information, and energy. This is the primordial breath, the purest, the most forgotten. The fascinating thing is that this concept is not only reserved for the Tao in Hinduism, especially in Tantra and the schools of subtle pranayama. There is talk of breathless breathing known as Kabala Kumbhaka, a state in which the energy moves even more evenly, when the body is motionless and the air neither flows in nor out. Advanced yogis train for years to achieve this state, a suspension of physical breath that activates the flow of prana through the body's subtle channels and awakens higher centers of consciousness. Even in early Christianity and in the esoteric teachings of the Middle East, the breath of the spirit, or rush, is mentioned as a life force that is not oxygen, but divine presence. This breath does not require lungs to be received. It is inhaled with the soul, not with the nose. Why all these traditions agree that there is a way to breathe beyond the air, because they have understood that the physical body is only one part of a much larger system and that the true power lies in the energetic body. Breathing from this body not only restores inner balance but connects the practitioner to the universal field, where there is no separation between what I am and what I desire. Embryonic breathing is therefore not a new technique, but a return to the oldest bridge to the state of oneness that precedes thought, identity, and will. In this state, nothing is sought because everything is already present. The Taoists knew it. The yogis knew it. The mystics of all ages sensed it in their quietest hours. The most powerful breath is the one you can't hear. And when you learn to activate this forgotten breath, you remember from the depths of your belly who you were before you became someone. When you hear the word breathe, you probably think of air. It enters through your nostrils, expands your lungs, and oxygenates your blood. But what if I told you that this is only a superficial manifestation of a deeper, subtler, more primal breathing? Embryonic breathing is not a physical technique, but a state of consciousness. It's not about moving the air, but about moving energy without moving the body. And this energetic movement begins in a place forgotten by the modern world. The vital center in the lower abdomen, known in Taoist tradition as the lower dantian. This center, which is not an organ or muscle but a vibrational core, is considered the energetic womb of the human being. From it comes life, and it is there that we must return if we want to awaken vitality, which does not depend on effort but rather on the attunement of embryonic breathing, when the practitioner stops breathing like a being taking in air and begins to breathe himself as an energy field. In this practice, there is no expansion of the chest or excitement of the diaphragm. The outer body is completely motionless, but inside something glows like an ember that makes no sound but heats from the inside out. Imagine for a moment a glowing sphere in your belly, a sphere that breathes without moving, a sphere that, with each cycle, collects the scattered energy of your body, condenses it, and returns it to the nucleus. This is embryonic respiration, a vibrational alchemy that reconfigures your field from within. How do you access this practice? First, with stillness, which silences the mind, normal breathing, which silences even the impulse to embryonic respiration, can only be activated when the ego withdraws from the scene, when you no longer want to control anything. Only then does the feeling begin that your body is breathing from somewhere else, a nameless place without form, without expectation. On a physiological level, you may be sitting in complete stillness, but on an energetic level, an expansion from the center to the extremities begins to manifest, as if every cell is preparing for a original frequency. This is not a suggestion, it is a reconnection with a biological and spiritual memory that lies dormant within us. All the ancients compared this process to the heartbeat of the universe, a rhythm that has no sound but pulsates through all living things. The embryonic breath allows you to enter this rhythm not as a visitor but as part of the whole, the energetic body, this invisible field that sustains your physical body begins to breathe as a unit. There is no entrance and no exit, only flow, and in this, tensions begin to dissolve, stagnant emotions find an outlet, the nervous system enters a state of deep regeneration, and, most importantly, the mind calms effortlessly because it is anchored in the belly, at the core, at the energetic center of the being. When you practice embryonic breathing, you do nothing but allow something deeper to breathe through you. It's as if the universe is breathing back into your body, reminding you with each cycle that you are not alone. Flesh and thought, but a living presence that can be renewed from its origin to the present. We've spoken of embryonic breathing as a way to access the energetic center of the being, a form of reconnection with the original state of the soul before its entry into the body. But this practice, like any true inner art, contains paradoxes that defy common logic, and it's not just about doing something different with the breath, but about unlearning the way you relate to time, the body, and energy. One of the first major challenges for those embarking on this path is that there is no immediate sensation that confirms that something is happening in embryonic breathing. There is no panting, no dramatic outbursts of emotion, no visible body heat. And yet it is precisely there that the secret of breathing is revealed in the invisibility of its power. The Taoist sages said that the master does not need to move to transform, nor does he need to speak to teach. Likewise, the experienced practitioner does not need to shake his body to. Energy in embryonic breathing, the most powerful movement, is the one that goes unnoticed, and this is precisely the first veil that must be crossed, the need for a test of control of immediacy. Whoever is impatient will not be able to access the subtle rhythm of the energetic body, because this form of breathing does not adapt to the time of the ego but to the time of the soul, which is internally cyclical, closer to the movement of the moon than to that of the clock. Another profound teaching of this technique is that the body is not a tool but a temple that listens. In the West, we are accustomed to using the body to achieve things, to control the breath, to force posture, and to discipline attention. Embryonic breathing, on the other hand, proposes the opposite. We listen to the body as if it were an oracle. We don't impose a rhythm on it, but allow it to remember its original rhythm. This rhythm is not learned, but remembered. It arises when we free ourselves from expectations and formulaic techniques and simply keep our attention in the belly, as if accompanying the dream of a sacred being within us. Another paradox. This effortless, silent breathing has a profoundly transformative effect. Alchemists who practice inner meditation described how, after weeks or months of practice, they felt a sensation of gentle warmth in their abdomen, a kind of inner sun that does not go out even in a state of rest. This warmth is not physical, but energetic, and marks the beginning of a transmutation, the awakening of the inner fire that promotes health, mental clarity, and spiritual growth. Unlike other practices, embryonic breathing doesn't strive to achieve anything, and that's precisely why it transforms everything. By activating the center, it quietly reorganizes the flow of life energy. The body begins to balance itself. The mind becomes more receptive and less reactive. The heart calms down, as if it has stopped chasing the future and can finally live in the here and now. Not only that, but embryonic breathing has an almost alchemical effect on dense emotions. It doesn't suppress or exploit them, but rather distills them. That is, it transforms the emotion into available energy. Fear becomes presence, sadness, compassion, anger, clarity. All this happens without the practitioner having to understand anything, because this practice does not speak the language of analysis, but that of the symbol of the body and fertile emptiness. Finally, after weeks of breathing like this, something changes without one noticing, and one day the practitioner realizes that they are no longer living from the mind, but from the center, and from there, everything that previously seemed difficult becomes easy because they have learned to move like the universe, without effort but with purpose. Talking about embryonic breathing may seem like a distant journey reserved only for monks or seekers who have retreated to the mountains. The truth is, however, that this practice, as ancient as the first heartbeat of the universe, requires no special places or advanced knowledge. It asks only one thing: you must learn to inhabit yourself from stillness. Here, I share with you 5 ways to bring this wisdom into your daily life, not just as another technique, but as a way to be more deeply, more rooted, more present in the world. Start by awakening your center every morning before you look at your phone, before you speak, even before you open your eyes. Place your hands on your lower abdomen and simply breathe as you feel this point. Don't alter your breathing. Simply be present with the invisible movement. You may not feel anything at first, but if you do it every day, your body will gradually remember its forgotten rhythm. This simple act has a profound effect. Instead of starting the day with anxiety and distraction, you enter the world from your center, and that changes the whole thing. Energy of your day. Second, make silence an energetic ritual. The modern world is full of external, digital, emotional noise, but the dantian, the center of embryonic breathing, is only activated in silence. So, allow yourself 5 minutes of complete silence every day, not to meditate as a technique, but to observe yourself without disturbances. Silence is not empty, it is fertile space. Energy can reorganize itself. There you begin to hear the breath of the soul. Third, in moments of, when you feel tension, anxiety, anger, or fear, stop. Don't think, don't analyze, simply return to center. Focus your attention on your lower abdomen and breathe gently. Imagine this point as a sphere of energy that remains motionless while everything else is in motion. This simple gesture anchors you and brings you back to the present. Most importantly, it separates you from the reactive ego and reconnects you to your physical wisdom. Fourth, nourish yourself as if you were carrying a sacred fire within you. Embryonic breathing has a physical equivalent of warmth. Internal, this life energy that nourishes from within. Therefore, pay attention to what enters your body. Do not eat in haste or out of lack. Eat as if feeding your body were a ritual act, as if each bite had the power to ignite the dantian. You will see that when you eat consciously, the energy is distributed differently, the body is grateful, the center is strengthened, the soul is rooted in fifth place. Allow yourself to have nothing to do with presence in a culture obsessed with productivity. Resting with awareness is revolutionary practice. Standing still without stimuli and without goals, not as an evasion, but as an energetic affirmation that you are already complete. In these moments, something falls into place without you even looking for it. Embryonic breathing can begin to reveal itself, not as something you do, but as something that happens when you finally surrender time. Embryonic breathing is not a technique to improve your life. It is an art of reconnecting with life before you began to want to improve it. And if you manage to incorporate a little of this practice into your day, you'll find that it's not necessary to transform the outside world and feel peace. All you have to do is remember who is still breathing within you. Most people spend their entire lives breathing, never pausing to sense who is really breathing. They breathe out of biological necessity, like a machine that never turns off, but they have rarely breathed with their soul from that silent center that needs no air, only presence. And yet we all come into this world from that stillness, from a subtle rhythm that comes not from the chest or lungs, but from the belly, the innermost, where energy is formed before it takes shape. Embryonic breathing is not an alternative technique, but a return, a reunion with the oldest, most intimate, and purest part of your being. It is as if an invisible thread had connected you to the moment when you were still a nobody and yet already a soul, floating in a sea without boundaries, breathing without a breath, living without a name, and vibrating in complete unity with the pulse of existence. This video was an invitation to remember that true power is not found in the effort, neither in the intensity nor even in the intellectual understanding. The true power lies in the ability to stop yourself, to free yourself from expectations, to listen to your energy when you are still, and to let your body remember how it breathed before you started to want to control everything. Do you now know that there is a way of breathing that does not require air? But attention, your vital center is not your mind or your heart, but the dantian, the energetic womb of your soul. Stillness is not inactivity, but the secret language of the subtle body, and that the deepest fire is ignited not by will, but by surrender. Breathing in this way is more than a meditative act. It is a sacred gesture, a silent declaration that says, I am ready to let go of control and remember. And in doing so, life changes, because when you breathe from the center, everything that previously seemed scattered begins to fall into place. The noise fades, the fear dissolves, and what remains is a clear sense of belonging, as if, at last, you were at home within yourself. So if something you heard today touched your soul, if you recognize this slumbering wisdom in a corner of your being, don't ignore it. Start today with at least 5 minutes of silence. Pay attention to your gut and the simple willingness to do nothing else. The rest will come. Simply subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and like the video so more people can rediscover this forgotten art. Share this knowledge with someone caught in the noise and needing to find their center, and write in the comments, I breathe from the source, for it is not a matter of adding more, but of returning to the essential. And in this silence, the universe breathes with you.